I'm very excited to do this segment, actually. So the Darlington Nurses have been told that they had to accept a man in their changing room due to the, quote, inclusiveness of the NHS. This was revealed following a 3-week trial where the barristers in the landmark case have now made their closing speeches. The nurses raised concerns about a biological male who identifies as a woman and goes by the name Rose being allowed to use the female staff changing room. County Durham and Darlington NHS Trust legal team had previously said that the complaints were ideologically driven and protected under the Equality and Human Rights Act. Well, the nurses have received public backing from millions of people, including J.K. Rowling as well, and support, of course, from politicians and, I would argue, anyone with a brain. But joining me this evening, I'm very pleased to say, is Bethany Hutchinson, Lisa Lockie, Anise Grundy and Karen Danson. Thank you very, very much. Could I start with you on the end, if that's all right?
You can.
So, how has this whole thing made you feel, and could you explain some of these harms that this has caused for you?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing's been pretty stressful for all of us, really. This has been an unprecedented legal case. And it's been overwhelming. I'm grateful that we have support from each other, and we've been pretty steadfast in the whole thing, really. But we've had to endure some pretty nasty and awful things from senior management within the trust. There's been colleagues that have had panic attacks. There have been colleagues that have had to wear clothing underneath their uniform because they haven't wanted to undress in front of a biological male. So it's been a pretty stressful ordeal all round, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Would you mind explaining, if you don't mind, anyway, the actual issue here, which is this man in the changing rooms? Because there's something here which says that it wasn't just the fact that he was in there, it was also his conduct as well. Yeah. So would you explain that for me, please?
So his behaviour in the changing room is being completely unacceptable. He's been, he parades around the changing room.
Would you mind just popping that microphone a bit closer?
Sorry.
That's all right, don't worry.
Sorry. He parades around the changing room, he stares at people, and for me, myself, it was particularly traumatic because I was abused as a child by my dad, and my dad would say to me, "Are you not getting ready for bed?" And there's this man in the changing room saying, "You're not getting changed yet." I had a massive panic attack, broke down in tears, and I had nightmares like every night for 3 months afterwards. That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of people that this policy is allowing in the changing room. It's affecting vulnerable people like me. It's a safeguarding risk, and the trust don't see that.
I'm just so sorry to hear all of that, and it's worth remembering as well, the reason you're there is to do a job that entirely involves trying to save people's lives and make them better.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just appalling. And what's emerged out of this as well is that there was a specific policy in this particular NHS trust, which is called, I believe, a transitioning in the workplace policy. Would you mind explaining what they were claiming that was and why that put you at risk?
So the policy it basically stated that anybody who identified as transgender, from the moment that they declared that they were transgender, they were allowed to access whichever changing room their gender identity, whichever they thought they were. So from the outset, this person was allowed to use our changing room apparently since 2019. They have withdrawn that now. Obviously, we've had the Supreme Court ruling, and we didn't even think we'd end up in court. We thought the Supreme Court ruling would that would be it. But, yeah, here we are. We've just finished our tribunal.
So how did the tribunal go, then? Because I think are we getting a result around Christmas, is that right?
Well, I think it'll probably be after Christmas. It'll probably be the New Year. We don't know. I mean, I think there were strengths and weaknesses, and, you know, we're hopeful, but we just don't know.
And just to be clear, so what is it exactly that what would your dream result be?
Well, apparently the judge can make recommendations. We want a change in policy. That was but Ideally, it would be nice to have an apology from the trust as well for their behaviour, because they have behaved badly towards us. We all believe they've behaved really badly to us.
Well, on that, would you mind passing the microphone downstairs? Is that all right? Sorry. So on that very issue then, so I mean, the headlines read, nurses penalised for trans complaints. So how were you penalised then?
So basically, from they did an investigation. Internal investigation, and we were removed from the changing room. We were told that we had to leave the changing room, and the trust held this. Was it a disciplinary investigation or was it?
It was a resolution meeting.
That was it. The resolution policy. Yeah. And it was meant to be wrapped up in a month, and it took 11 months. And at the end of it, the result was yes, there's a guy using the changing room. However, that's the policy, so we can't do anything about it.
Right.
So we feel that it was
and
just a
you
fraud.
had to move changing rooms as well?
Yeah, we were moved out the changing room virtually within a couple of months of the letter.
Yeah.
And I've got a recollection of reporting on this at the time, I think, because those changing rooms that you were forced into were not really proper changing rooms, were they?
No, it's an old converted manager's office. And then we've got one changing, like a changing, like a cubicle, one small
but
cubicle.
we since found out, since the court, since the tribunal, that it wasn't even, it didn't match fire regulations. They knew that there was work needed to be done on it to make it fire safe, and they said no. We can't really justify spending that much money, so they left it as it was.
And yet they can justify spending a whole lot of money on a court case.
Yeah.
So just to be clear on that then, so they actually not just made you move into what was essentially a glorified broom cupboard so that Rose could use your changing room.
Yeah.
They then also put you in that room which was not fire safe.
Yes.
Right. OK, I mean, there's so many layers to this, aren't there? You mentioned there about the money to fight you in court, this tribunal. I was really struck, I'm just getting up on my screen here, by one of the arguments that was made by this NHS Trust KC, either today or yesterday, presumably, saying that basically you had, quote, chosen to interpret anything from Rose in a negative way, and you had a single-minded pursuit of this issue which, quote, clouded your judgment. That's quite offensive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's extremely offensive, yes. Yeah.
And that's the NHS, that's your overall bosses saying that you're making a big deal out of
Yes, it is a big deal, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, women's rights, women's safety, women's dignity is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is, and you know, you've got to think the international nurses that's had no consideration in this, that a lot of them were just so uncomfortable with it, but nobody was even consulted before he was allowed to come in the changing room. Nobody said, you know, would you mind if this transgender person starts using your changing room? No, just get on with it.
And could I ask, is it all right to get the microphone here? Look, I hope you don't mind me asking this, but I was very struck by something you said earlier about your previous negative experiences. So when you approached bosses, presumably, and explained to them that you also had some childhood trauma, which presumably added to how triggering this situation is, what was their response?
Negative. I've had no support at all. And last year I was due to have a hysterectomy, and I went into the theatre manager where Rose works, where this person works, and he was going to be in my procedure, and I said to the manager, there's a legal case going on, it's ethically inappropriate. And she was like, well, how would this person feel if he was to be removed from your surgery? We'll cancel your surgery, we'll get you moved elsewhere with a different doctor.
So they were going to cancel your hysterectomy?
Yeah.
Because some of the one who was going to be taking part in that operation was this man?
Yes.
This is just unbelievable.
Completely.
It's unbelievable. It really is. I honestly don't know what to say. It's not often I'm lost for words, but I'm so sorry that you've all had to go through this and that you've had to fight. But I mean, the support that you have had, I hope you feel anyway, from most right-thinking individuals. It must have, I suppose, been a bit of a support for you. But I mean, look, honestly, I just don't know what to say. Really, it's remarkable. That's the changing room, by the way, I believe, is there? And just to say as well, could we outline this Rose? is a biological man, and am I right in saying has a girlfriend or had a girlfriend?
Has a wife now.
Has a wife.
Yeah.
He's just got married.
So basically, it's a straight man who dresses as a woman.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's just bonkers. So, OK, so the result of this is hopefully you get the result, one which will include a massive apology, and that will, we think, is sometime in the new year.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're also helping for systemic policy change throughout the NHS as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, well, look, thank you so much. I could talk to you all night about this. I'm really sorry that we're going to have to end it here, but I want to say a massive thank you for all coming into the studio as well, and for being so brave about it. I know you shouldn't have to be, but, you know, the consequences for this have been pretty staggering, so thank you very, very much. A spokesperson for County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust has said, County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust is committed to providing safe, respectful and inclusive care for patients and working environments for all colleagues. As this matter is the subject of an ongoing employment tribunal proceedings, it would not be appropriate for the Trust to comment further whilst the case is active. Sorry about this, just very quickly, if you don't mind. Could we get the microphone at the end there quickly? Sorry. Where are you changing now, then? Have you got your changing room back?
Yes, we're back in the original changing room. Apparently that the individual's now removed from the changing room, somewhere else to change, but we were never told by the Trust officially that that was the case.
OK. All right. Well, look, thank you again. Thank you. And I know our viewers and listeners are full square behind you on this issue. So, all right, all the very best.